Hello everybody, I'm Hoarder Gamer, and this is Hoarder's Comic Flex. I hope you're doing well. Let's see, make sure we got audio. Okay, we do. Sorry about that, it wasn't showing, so I wasn't 100% certain on that. And that's the joy of having this be live. Anything can happen. So, anyway, today we have a excellent show for you. I hope that it meets your week as it is, doesn't make your week any worse, doesn't make your week weaker than it's been. We're going to start with video game news. We're going to toy around for a little bit, look at the very near future of comic books, and then we have a comic book review. And this week, it is G.I. Joe #1. Look at this gorgeous Lee Bermejo cover. Incredible. If you can't see it, it's like a hand-painted look, right? And it's Cobra Commander's helmet, the reflective part, reflecting Duke, and like an explosion behind him as he's like in midair about to punch Cobra Commander. It's an incredible cover. Hey Crinky, how you doing? First up though, we have video gaming news and just my thoughts on specific video games and the video game industry as a whole, I guess you could say. We begin with Dragon Age Veilguard. Now, I believe I covered a bit of that last week. So here we're going to look at things I would change or frustrations I have with the game, because I don't hear a lot of people talking about this, and I feel that as more people get into the game, I'm now about 40 hours in, 35 to 40 hours. So one timer in the game says I'm about 5 hours less, but the PlayStation timer says for that specific game, I'm 40 hours in. So I don't know, between 35 and 40 hours right now. I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm happy you're doing well as well, Crinky. That's many times as saying well in a single sentence. Okay, let's see here. So, the things I would change. The loot is bad. I know this isn't a game known for its loot, but even as like a role-playing game, it's some of the worst I've seen. I'm almost never happy when I open a treasure chest, especially after hunting for it, and I find something, and basically the whole issue is it's always a horizontal change. You're almost never getting a vertical change, something you're excited about. It's like, oh, that feature that you have and love and that's part of your build and you've had for hours, here's a feature you don't use at all. There you go. No increase to defense, no increase to attack. It's just so weird. I honestly don't get it. It's like you over level the loot, but if you're doing the story missions, I'm sorry, the companion missions, which is what I was doing at the time, that's really not like gated or anything like that. You can do those at your leisure. You could do most of the campaign, I think, before you do most of the companion missions. So yeah, I don't quite get it. And very rarely did I get a piece to drop and I was like, oh, that's awesome, or that works for me. I'd say in about 10 pieces that drop, I get 2 good ones. So yeah, I really think that, as weird as it sounds, with a role-playing game and not a looter, that I think the loot should be better, or they should buff it or something, because it's just very disappointing almost every time you open a treasure chest in Dragon Age Veilguard. Okay, and then there's another thing you can do, right? You can level up your gear with a caretaker spirit. So early on in the game, you meet this ghostly like figure, and it decides it wants to upgrade your weapons and armor. Okay, but you have to use these special things to upgrade it. You have to find like these collectibles in the open world and in like even like I think character missions as well. And they are a pain in the ass. So you'll need like 400 or 500 points to upgrade him, and each of these things you find is only 50 points. So it takes forever to upgrade this caretaker spirit. So that doesn't even become a great way to make your gear better. Okay, now we're going to talk about something I talk about in games a lot because I'm an old man. I'm 47 years old. Okay, I'm not like 18 or anything like that, or 23. I'm not 27. I'm not 29. Not going on 33. 47. And difficulty spikes. So on normal difficulty, the last mission of Act 1. Now, this is Act 1, not the end of the game. The game, I believe, has 3 acts total. It might have, like, an epilogue at the end. I don't know. But it has at least 3 acts. And I know the 3rd act is at least shorter with the amount of missions, but it does take a number of hours. Anyway, so the last mission of Act 1, it took about 90 minutes. It was like an action film. It was lengthy. There were a lot of set pieces. So don't get me wrong, that part was awesome. However, most of that time, unlike the rest of the entire game to that point, no potions anywhere. So I very quickly went through my allotment of 4 potions. Here and there I would find a single potion when I had none. And that forced me to not use my allies' powerful attacks against enemies in battle, so I could have them heal me instead. Because there's a cooldown meter, and the choice is use a healing potion or attack the enemy. And in some cases, use a primer and a detonator to do real insane damage to the enemy. Now, I'll be honest, to add insult to injury, I thought I could use these beacons that the mission levels have, and I could change my team out if there was an issue with using any of the primers or detonators. I was wrong. Beacons were not allowed, and I couldn't swap my team out. So sadly, I couldn't use primers or detonators. So that made combat even more difficult. But even the fact that it took me longer to kill the enemies, it was a number of weird frustrations, like enemies constantly lobbing arrows and explosives, constantly having to dodge out of the way, even when enemies were like 50 feet away and across from on a cliff or something. It just didn't make sense. Also in this mission, very big enemies that are very fast in small contained areas. It just didn't make sense to make it as difficult as it was and have so few potions available. Again, on normal difficulty. I'm not complaining about hard, harder, or like, oh my god, why is this so difficult level of difficulty. I'm talking about normal difficulty. So, yeah. Okay, so that mission culminated in an intense boss battle with 4 rounds of craziness. So there's a cinema, it's really good actually, and then something happens and you're like, oh, I think we defeated the enemy. That's weird, somewhat anticlimactic. So the big bad guy, one of them, cheats, brings the thing back to life, and then you have to fight it. There's a change to it then after you think you kill it, and you fight it again. And there's another change, another like gameplay mechanic, things that change on the enemy's side. So it's not boring, it's not just the same thing over and over. But it comes off as a very long encounter right on the back of a very long mission. So again, there were like maybe, I think 2 potions I could get access to there, and that was insane. Most of that fight was, again, me using my companions to heal me, and then I just focus on fighting physically in my rogue class, like, you know, with blades and everything. And then also, you know, I was applying like a primer and or a detonator, not enough to actually cause the chain reaction, but enough to cause some damage. And yes, it took like forever. It was like, I want to say with the boss battle, damn near 2 hours. But yeah, I mean, one saving grace though, during that boss battle, I did die. I finally succumbed, I did die. And during that, there's a checkpoint. So there are at least checkpoints in these crazily long and difficult boss battles. But again, even on normal, it was really challenging. It was really challenging avoiding all the attacks and everything. But I am happy that there were checkpoints, so that part was nice. Okay, yeah. Otherwise, I love the game though. I feel it's a game of the year contender. I think it's going to be on many game of the year lists. Like top 10 lists of the year for gaming. It's very good. But yeah, I mean, it's just got the most terrible loot I've seen in an RPG. And, again, I'm prefacing it with it not being a looter. I understand that. But beyond that, you're almost never happy when you open a treasure chest. Like, oh, cool, I got something. Wait a minute, why are there red arrows pointed down at defense and attack? Why is that? Why is it doing that? But yeah. We don't have a lot of gaming news, but this is news that if you live in the United States, it's important to know. So I wrote this almost like I would like a real short little article, like a paragraph. Save your pennies if you don't have a console and you're waiting till next year to buy one. The Trump tariffs will increase console prices up to 40% more than current retail price. PS5 Pro could rise up to $1,000 in the US. This is what analysts have already been saying. So the way tariffs work is the companies pay them. Do you think they're just like, cool? Sony is like, we want to pay that extra money. That's awesome. No, they pass it on to the consumer. So yeah, the PS5 Pro, if you wanted one and didn't get one until next year, and Trump actually goes through with tariffs, it will be roughly 40% more expensive. So now the games are on discs. They're pressed. I don't think it'll increase game prices themselves, but consoles will be expensive. Some people think that the successor to the Switch could be $500 to $700. And if you know Nintendo pricing, that's crazy. That's crazy. Like, at that pricing, you could probably say at the most the Switch successor would be $300 to $500. If they're thinking it's going to be possibly $500 to $700 or more. That's insanity. So just something I wanted to get out there, because if you're into gaming, just to know, yeah, you're going to have to save if you're looking to get a console. Heaven only knows if this goes through and new consoles come out before the end of this term, or if this term ever ends. Who knows with this dude? Yeah, could be very expensive. PS6 and Series, I don't know, whatever they're going to call it for the new Xbox, could be quite expensive. So just something to know. And with that, we are done with video game news and, my opinions and, some things I actually research, Okay, so... Okay, next up, we are going to go to the world of toys, and we're going to toy around a bit. It's time for us, after this serious talk of tariffs. It's kind of like when you saw Star Wars Episode 1, and all of a sudden, it's all about trade disputes and politics in the Galactic Senate. You're like, what is happening here? Next up, it's time to talk toys. And first up, we have Mon Ami. It's Gambit. That's right, everybody. Deadpool and Wolverine. Hopefully you've all seen the movie by now. Okay? I'm not going to feel bad at this point for spoilers. It's been months. I'm sure the internet would have spoiled it for you anyway if you haven't seen the movie. But here we go. Gambit. Okay? Channing Tatum. Gambit. As a Funko Pop. If you look at his hands, he's got the cool thing with the cards and like the energy that he creates, kind of like, as he's like shuffling the cards in midair. That's what they're trying to recreate there. I think it looks really nice. I think this is a really good Funko Pop. It's going to be between 12 and 15 apparently. I don't know if they've raised the Funko Pop prices. Everything's going up, so who knows. But apparently $14.99 is the price that I saw quoted. But that is Gambit right there. I still think they should be in like the $10 to $12 range, but I don't know. Maybe GameStop, maybe some places, Amazon will have them at that price. I honestly don't know. Okay, so we got Gambit. Next up we have X-23. X-23 is getting her own Funko Pop from the new Deadpool and Wolverine movie. And again, I think it looks really good. I'm not the biggest fan of the character, like even in the comic, I'm not. But I think the pop looks great. I think the actress is awesome. And there we go, X-23. And this is the pop, besides Gambit, that I think everyone's going to want and freak out over. Blade. Because some Funko Pop collectors got to ice skate uphill. I know that was terrible. But no, I think this looks excellent. Looks like Wesley Snipes. Looks like how the older version of Blade that was depicted in the movie. Goatee and everything. I think looks great. I think this, of all three, actually, this is probably my favorite. This might be my favorite, although the card effect on Gambit is really well done. I love it when they use the translucent plastics, like they've used on some ghosts and stuff like that from Funko. I'm a big fan of that, so. And speaking of translucent plastics, it's Dagan Gera. And if you want to know, if you didn't know how to say his name, you know, you're wanting pronunciation, just think of the popular Bachman Turner Overdrive song, Taking Care of Business. Think of it like Dagan Gera Business. Your Dagan Gera Business. Think of it that way. So, as you notice, a blue translucent arm in keeping with his design and look in Star Wars Jedi Survivor. He's got 2 lightsabers. I think they did a really good job on the sculpt of his face and everything like that, and the outfit. Dagan Gera. And then, hold on here. What did I just do? Sorry, buddy. Give me 1 second here. Oh, I see what happened. It was 2 different quick pictures. Dagan Gera comes with I believe a BX droid, also from the game, and the 2-pack is $44.99. These are the 6-inch figures, which usually go for $24.99 a piece, usually up to a total of like $30 a piece. It depends on the accessories that come with or anything like that. So $44.99 for a 2-pack like this, I think, is a rather good deal. I'm actually surprised by it because prices are just going up, especially with like Hasbro. So I think them offering both of those 6-inch figures with accessories at $44.99 is definitely not bad, especially like when I said prices are usually about $24.99, $27.95, $30, you know, it's usually what they are now. So I think it's a pretty good pricing on that. And yeah, it's one of the first Dagan Gera 6-inch figures. It might be the first. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it could be. But I think they did a really good job. And there's a few other interesting characters Jedi Survivor could do in 6 inches. It'd be spoilers, but it'd be cool if they did that too. But yeah, everybody, we are done actually toying around. There wasn't much to toy around with this week. It was really the Funko Pops. Most of the stuff about toy information this week was like pre-orders are live. And weird thing about the Dagan Gera BX droid, I want to say that it was Monday that like pictures came out and everything, and pre-orders went live today. But it was like apparently announced or shown in packaging on Monday. So yeah, sometimes things are weird like that. They're gonna have like weird early like ship dates. Sometimes it's not pre-order, sometimes it's in stock, and they surprise you with stuff like that. So it happens. Okay, everybody, we are done toying around. It is time for us to look at the future of comic books. Future of comic books all the way to 1 week from today. Okay. And first up, we have Batman and Robin #2. #1 was really good. Introduced a ruthless and frightening new villain known as the General, who's just made his way to Gotham after arriving by plane and having everyone on the plane murdered who saw him. Yeah, he's pretty scary. There's a scene in this in issue 1 where he's like really nice to the stewardess and saying it was a great flight and she should be commended and everything like that. And then he gets off the plane, talks to his soldier, and says, "You know what to do, right? Everyone that saw me." And all you see the scene where he walks into the plane, the soldier guy, or is like second in command type guy, and you just hear screaming and gunshots. So yeah, he's going to be very interesting. Also, you have Dick Grayson trying to decide who he is as a person and who he is as Robin. And, you know, how much control Batman should have over his life. Issue 1 was very good. And I have no reason to think that issue 2 will not be good as well. So I definitely wanted to show this. And yeah, this is a variant cover by Chris Samney. And he's a really good artist. He actually did a really cool variant cover for Green Lantern this week. I've been really enjoying his stuff. Next up we have The Question, All Along the Watchtower. Okay. So I actually took a note for this one because it was a little bit complicated and I don't know all that much about the character, so I wanted to have some info here. So this is after in the wake of what happened in Absolute Power. The whole story about Amanda Waller and her basically taking the powers away from superheroes. Their powers are back, but not without hiccups, we could say. It has definitely changed the DC universe. Certain powers are going haywire. Some characters don't have theirs at all. So it's been very interesting, and it seems to be leading into something else. Basically, the Justice League, they have contacted Renee Montoya, who became the Question somewhat recently in the comics, and she had to leave Gotham very quickly. It was kind of a premature leaving. She wasn't expecting it. And the Trinity, which would be Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, have tasked her with coming to the Justice League Watchtower in order to figure out a dark threat that is bubbling underneath the surface. That's actually what it says here. That's the wording it uses here in the solicit. And her ad hoc support team, they're the only ones that stand a chance of figuring out who the problem is before it's too late. It's a 6-issue series written by Alex Segura and art by Cian Tormey. I think it looks really cool. I think the Question's an awesome character. I've only read a little bit of the Question featuring Renee Montoya, but I still think that's really awesome. And I'm interested to see if All In will lead us to an actual ongoing Question series, if that's a possibility, or if this will just remain a 6-issue miniseries. I believe what happened with The Penguin by Tom King is he wrote, it was supposed to be initially, I think, a 6-issue miniseries, but it went so well, it became 12 issues. And I want to say that might be the end. I don't know if it's going to be getting more issues or not. I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, that'd be cool if this actually becomes a full-blown series, an ongoing, as they call it. And finally, because there really weren't that many super exciting comic books next week, we saved the best for last, everybody. Venom War. But not the Venom War offshoots and spin-offs you've been seeing recently. This time, it's personal. This time, it's Jeff. That's right, everybody. Jeff the Land Shark has his turn with the symbiote. In Venom War, it's Jeff, #1, written by Kelly Thompson. Kelly Thompson writing a lot of really good comic books recently, including, I believe, Birds of Prey. So this should be a lot of fun. It'll be very interesting to see how things go with everyone's adorable, lovable character Jeff getting the symbiote. Uh, Definitely a contender we weren't expecting. You know, you had Eddie, you had Dylan, Peter, Miles, but now it's Jeff. So there's a decent chance I'll review this next week. Actually, I might review this next week. I think it'll be a fun romp. Jeff the Landshark is incredibly fun in Marvel Rivals. I love him. He's a healer, an attacker. He does this cool thing where he like goes into the ground, comes up, and chomps people. It's really fun. It's really fun. So, Venom War, it's Jeff, #1, and it's like a one shot, but they just call it, #1 anyway. So, maybe due to popular demand, it'll lead to a Venom Jeff series. Maybe this is the beginning of that. And with that, everybody, we are done with comic books, looking at the very near future of them up to 1 week from today. That leads us to our review of G.I. Joe #1. Okay, written by Joshua Williamson with art by Tom Riley. Okay. It has been like a year buildup, if not longer. A number of G.I. Joe miniseries, all part of something called the Energon universe, joining the Transformers comic book and Avoid Rivals comic book. Okay? And the miniseries Duke, I hope I remember this correctly, Duke, Cobra Commander, Scarlet, and Destro. Actually, it might be Destro and Scarlet. But there were 4 different miniseries, each one with 5 issues, that introduced a number of characters in the G.I. Joe universe, and even dabbled a bit with the Transformers universe. It's pretty interesting. It was a very cool read. But yeah, now we finally have issue 1 with a gorgeous cover, as I mentioned earlier, by Lee Bermejo. In fact, I think I have a better picture of that. Let's see. There we go. There we go, right there. So, okay. Duke is trying to put together his team. He's got Stryker, who is great at, actual, like, hand-to-hand combat, as well as a master of languages and, basically defusing situations, as well as taking care of very difficult situations. So, that's him. Courtney Krieger, also known as CoverGirl, former model and now a tank mechanic, and knows just about everything there is to know about, weapons and things like that. Then you have Rock and Roll, big, huge guy, knows guns, and knows what it's like to fight insurmountable odds. And then Clutch, the ultimate pilot that Duke has to rely on, and I believe he actually ends up going and running to him for some assistance in Duke the Duke miniseries, actually, because things get real serious for Duke. He really has no friends, nowhere to run, so he ends up going to an old friend, and I believe it was Clutch. Okay, so that team all makes sense. You're like, oh, those are popular G.I. Joe characters, awesome. But Duke decides that another member should join the team. A woman by the name of Anastasia Scizorovna. But you all may know her as the Baroness. So the Baroness is a member of this G.I. Joe team. So a lot of fun and excitement is ahead of us. I can see that. There's an excellent scene with Stryker and the Baroness getting upset each other. And the Baroness says something in either, I forget if she's Russian or I think she's Russian. She's Russian or I think Croatian, but I think she's Russian. So she says something in that language, and then all of a sudden Stryker says something in the same language, and she's shocked and she's upset because of what he said. She's like, "How dare you!" So that was a really kind of awesome scene. And here you have, they show us Springfield, USA, which is basically, and I believe in the cartoon even, one of the kind of like the base of where Cobra, you know, kind of formed, and they like basically took over this like small like city, or made it look like a city. I'm trying to remember exactly how they did it in the cartoon. But Destro and Cobra Commander are basically trying to get stuff that came from a Cybertronian ship after a crash. And that is based in the Transformers comic. That makes much more sense there. But now it's basically a race between G.I. Joe and Cobra to get this technology. Another really cool wrinkle here, they came up with a clever way to explain how Cobra always has laser guns. As Destro says, Energon on demand. Because you find out in the miniseries and Transformers comic book that Mars Industries, run by Destro, basically has been using Energon to power a lot of their vehicles as well as their technology, and to actually create special AI so the Bat robot units will work correctly and not just fire on anybody. They can know friend or foe because of Energon. So, but yeah, I thought it was really cool that they mention, you know, lasers, and they explain an actual reason in universe as to how Cobra has access to crazy laser guns like they did in the comic books. Even G.I. Joe is taken aback when they see the weapons and everything like that. So, and unfortunately, it does seem as one of Duke's members dies in this first issue. So, and that's kind of the cliffhanger, that moment, that full page of that happening, possibly. So, yeah, this is very good. This is definitely worth the build-up. Whether you got those miniseries or not, this is very good. If you're a fan of Transformers, I've said many times before, definitely try out the Transformers comic book. There's like, right now, I think 3 volumes. The 3rd one just came out. I want to say there's a total of 14 issues, but in the trades, there's a total of... You know, I think there might be only 2 trades, actually. I think it's 6 issues and 6 issues, so I think it's 2. But yeah, there's a total of 14 issues now total. Issue 14 actually came out today. So today was not only G.I. Joe #1, but Transformers #14. And that same level of quality, that same level of writing, love of the characters, love of the lore, is depicted in G.I. Joe #1. And if you're a fan of them, I highly recommend it. Even if, like, you love the cartoon, you love elements of G.I. Joe Classified, the toy series, something like that, this is like some of the best writing you will see for Transformers or G.I. Joe anywhere. It's really good, and it's a stellar first issue. So, G.I. Joe #1. Okay, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you. I am actually going to be leaving Twitter. So I'll be basically advertising on Blue Sky and Threads mostly. And so I didn't even really know how to go about promoting this episode because this was not promoted on Twitter. So yeah, if you like it, feel free to tell anyone you know about it or anything. I'm rethinking how I do the actual like promotion. At one point even I thought about maybe taking this show to Twitch and have it just be part of like my Wednesday night game stream, but then also this show. I'm not exactly certain, but I will definitely, you know, you'll know about it. It'll be somewhere where you can see it if you want to. But I want to thank you all very much for watching. Right now, my plan is still to keep it on YouTube here. And thank you, everybody. I hope you have a great week. And yeah, read some cool comics. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.